Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Henrik Schultz. I work at the head office as a product manager, and I'm extremely happy to be invited to your event. Unfortunately, due to traveling, I cannot be there, and so it has to be a recording. I've been asked to share a few words about our products, and in order to do that, I will start a presentation. So let me share my screen. So basically, it's a matter of preventing bad things from happening. So how important is this? Well, they did a study in America in the year 2004 and found out that 50% of the people who died in the year 2000 died of something that could have been prevented through diet and lifestyle. So that's quite a big number. I'm not sure what the number is in your country, but I think it's fairly high there also. WHO, they actually say that 70% of all the deaths are connected to a diet and lifestyle problem and can be prevented. So we think in Zinzino that this is very important. There are more reports coming from various professors in the world, but they're all saying that nutrition, food, and physical activity has changed, and that is one of the reasons for why we are where we are with our diseases. Simopoulos made this statement, and she's a famous professor and made a lot of statements and research also about omega-3s, and I will come back to her. So let's think about preventing them. And in Zinzino, we have a concept which we call health protocol, balance oil, xenobiotic, and extend. And I will quickly go through this product and share some knowledge. So when it comes to balance, it's a matter of balance of omega-6 and omega-3. And omega-6 is not bad. Omega-6 is needed, but we need to have a balance of how much we have of it compared to the omega-3 in our diet, and therefore how it is in our bodies and in our cells. So how does it look? Well, certain studies being done shows that this is not something that old people are having. This is something that starts in the early years, and especially today with the microwave food that a lot of young people are eating, hamburgers, pizzas, French fries, and so on. And our genes and how we are developed from the early stages many 100,000 years ago, we should have a balance of omega-6 to 3 around 2 to 1. And most people today are above 12 to 1, actually 30 to 1, 40 to 1, 50 to 1. So we are not in balance. This famous Professor Simopoulos had the opportunity to present information about balance and what that means in terms of omega-3 and omega-6 in your system, and what that means for your health in certain aspects. So when you're above 12, then your system is not working as perfect as it should. There are more inflammation processes going on, and not so many molecules that can stop the inflammation processes. So you need to come down in a balance so there are enough molecules that can stop the inflammation processes. And you might think, well, if it's 5 to 1 or 4 to 1, that is quite good. Well, it's better, but you really need to come down below 3 to 1 to have something. And it's like the European Food and Safety says, EFSA. You know, when it's 3 to 1, then you can normalize your blood pressure. And blood pressure and the problem with it is the #1 cause of heart problems in the world. So if we can normalize the blood pressure for a lot of people, we are taking care of one of the major problems in the world. That is quite interesting. So when there is an imbalance, there are more molecules starting inflammation processes than there are molecules that can reduce them or stop them. Then we have a problem, and that is a chronic disease being developed. So this inflammation, is that bad or good? Well, actually neither or both. So inflammation is positive because you need inflammation to kill pathogens and bacteria. When you have a fever, your body responds with heat and pain. That is an inflammation. If you fall down and hurt yourself and you get a bruise, then you have heat and pain in the leg, and that is an inflammation process to heal and to kill bacteria and other bad stuff. However, if the inflammation process goes on and on and on and never stops, then it is chronic. And when the chronic inflammation goes on and on, that's when bad things are starting to happen. And it happens silently and a little at a time. So therefore, it's almost always called a silent chronic inflammation. Should I, for example, have a heart attack today, it's not because what I had for lunch yesterday. It's because of the life I lived since I was 20. So it's something small, something that is silent, and it happens all the time in the background. So if too much omega-6 causes chronic inflammation, and omega-3 creates molecules that stops the inflammation processes when they are not needed, is that just a solution? Well, not really. EFSA, again, they state, as I mentioned earlier, that if you can get 3 grams of omega-3 into your system, that contributes to a normal blood pressure. So that is all fine. That sounds great. Now, there is a big organization called Cochrane. They are in Czech, they're in Hungary, they are in Germany, and they made some evidence studies on omega-3 and the effect on blood pressure. And unfortunately, when they ran through all these studies that included 112,000 people, they found that omega-3 has very little effect on the heart. So that's quite disappointing. 112,000 persons were included in 79 different trials, and there was very little effect. And for us who are in the prevention business and recommended to have an omega-3 increase in your blood, this could be quite disturbing. However, there was another organization called Blackmore that challenged this, and Cochrane came back and said, well, it doesn't really matter if you take 1 gram, 2 gram, 3 gram, 4 gram, or 5 gram per day. It still doesn't work according to the studies done over the years. But please note, all these people in these studies, they took pure fish oil. And this is exactly in line with the research that founded the company Bioactive Food, that spent 10 years of studying this and then came out with a product, and then they came into the Zinzino family. And that's why we do not have an omega-3 product, because we know since many years it doesn't work. We have a balance oil, a combination of fish oil and olive oil. And that combination contains antioxidants from the olives, but it also contains omega-3, omega-6, omega-7, and omega-9. So it's a combination product, and this total combination makes it work. It can also be explained like this to make it very simple. If you eat a fatty fish like a mackerel, anchovy, or a salmon, that fish contains omega-3, but also the other omegas. It contains vitamins, vitamin A and vitamin D, and it contains antioxidants in a natural way. So when you eat that fish, your body accepts it and takes all the omegas and the antioxidants and everything, and you will get into balance if it is a wild caught fatty fish. If you, from the fish, only take out the omega-3s and put that in a bottle and leave all the antioxidants and the vitamins behind, that's only part that you took out is not going to work, unfortunately. And that is what the science shows also. Our science, Cochrane science, and other sciences show that. You need to be similar to a fish. That's the invention that Bioactive Foods came up with that we are now selling in our system. So the balance oil contains the omega-3 from the fish, but it also contains the omega-7 from the fish. Then it contains the omega-6 and omega-9 from the olive oil, and it contains the antioxidants from the fish. And therefore it's similar to a fish, and when you consume it, it will be accepted by your body. You will increase the omegas in your system, and you will get into balance. Quite simple. The antioxidants in the olive, their role is purely to protect the omegas all the way into the cell membrane in any kind of dosage. The olives that we are putting into our product, they come from Spain. They are harvested roughly a month before the normal harvesting period, because that's when the antioxidants are at their highest level. They are around 750 milligrams per kilo. Your supermarket normal olive oil probably contains like 50 or 75 milligrams per kilo. So this one contains so much more. For those who are extremely interested, there is an important antioxidant called hydroxytyrosol, and we are above 400. So in the daily dose you get 3.5. But as such, the amount is not important. The important is the role is to protect the omegas all the way into their cells. So as we summarize this, if you're eating farmed fish, like we do in Sweden, the farmed fish has not been eating krill or algae, so it doesn't really contain a lot of omegas. If you eat pure fish oil, it contains very little, and most of the time the dosage is also very small, and you are simply not getting into balance either. If you're eating a wild caught fatty fish, it has all the omegas and the antioxidant called polyphenols, and you will get into balance. Balance oil, the same thing here, fish and olive oil, all the omegas, all the antioxidants, and you have a good dosage and you will get into balance. Nothing more, nothing less, quite simple. We also have a product called AquaX, where we put into an emulsifier called Aquacell. And what that one does is makes the balance oil come into tiny, tiny droplets when it's mixed with water or orange juice or any cold drink. It's just natural products, so it's very clever. And the only thing by taking it and mixing it with water or orange juice is that the taste and the flavor of both the olive oil and the fish oil almost disappears, almost. So people who find it difficult to take fish oil because of the taste, this is the solution. And the more you dislike fish oil, the stronger cold liquid you take. So if it's just a little, take water. If you hate it, blend it with the strongest orange juice you can find. The only thing that is important is that you shake the bottle every time before you pour yourself your dosage into the drink. You can see almost like on the picture on the side that the Aquacell, the emulsifier, it looks like honey inside the bottle, and it needs to be reblended every time before taking the dosage. Then for those who are vegans or vegetarians, we have a product called vegan oil. So I mentioned earlier that in order for a fish to have a good content of omegas, it needs to eat the omegas. And what they do is they eat algae and they eat krill. So there are lots of companies saying, well, in that case, let's supply an algae oil to the consumers. And we try that, but you don't get into balance. There are also companies that try to do algae oil with flaxseed or linseed. We also tried that. It doesn't work. So for us, these are no good because we have a blood test where you can prove or prove not that your product works. Other companies do not have a blood test, so they just sell it anyway. Now we came up with an invention that we patented. So you take the algae oil, you take our olive oil, and then you take the echium seed oil, and you take vitamin D that is vegan. And then you have a product that your body converts the proper way, and your cells will get into balance. Quite simple. And it is the echium seed that is this simple, important ingredient here that makes everything work. It contains an oil called SDA, stearidonic acid. And this is the fatty acid that helps doing the fantastic conversion of all the other ones. So that's why we have it patented. Now, there are some questions sometimes. So where do you get the algae from? Which sea? China, it's polluted. It's outside Africa, it's polluted. And it's no. It is made in America, where they take fresh algae that are pure from any contaminants. They take seawater that is fresh and free from contaminants. And then you put it, for example, in tubes. And they can grow under the sun like this. And when the tubes are full of algae, they take some out, and then they put it in a spin machine that spins it, and the water comes out on one side and oil on the other side. And there are no chemicals or nothing. And it's therefore certified free from any heavy metals or any contaminants. And then you leave some algae and seawater in the tubes, and you flush them through the system, and they grow under the sun, and then you harvest again, and so on and so on. So all in all, the vegan oil, it's a patented mix. Nobody else can do it. With the algae oil, olive oil, and the echium oils. And the fatty acid profile of this product is different when you read the label, but you don't need to worry, because when it is converted in your system, you will get into balance just as well as you do it with the balance oil. Now, I'd like to show you this slide also for one reason. We are measuring the fatty acids in your blood cells. Reason why? Well, we cannot really go into your brain or into your other cells in your body and measure them. That would require surgical instruments and so on. Measuring the red blood cells has been scientifically proven, not only for this, but for other companies and for other measurements, to be very accurate when it comes to measuring what you have in your system. And the red blood cells, like any other cells, they live only 120 days. So if you take our product, you need to take it every day for 120 days in the correct dosage. If you only take it half of the day, only half of the cells will actually have the fatty acids. And then your result will be not so good. If you take it every day in the right dosage, after 120 days, all your cells have been deleted and new ones have been born with all, and then the new ones will contain the omega-3s. So that's how important it is to take it every day. And then if you for any reason would stop taking the product and go back to a normal diet, well, your next day cells will die and some new ones will be born without omega-3. The second day, more cells will die and new cells will be born. And after 120 days, you have new cells in your system without omega-3 and you're back where you started. So this is not a cure, this is for life. So you need to get 3 grams omega-3 into your system. And if that is combined with an antioxidant product like the olive oil, you will with time achieve a 3-to-1 balance if you take it every day in the correct dosage. And the health benefits you will receive, they are like EFSA says, like the Professor Simopoulos says, like the Cochrane Institute says, they will be lowered blood pressure, minimized of chronic inflammation, and so on. And that will, in the long run, be a health benefit for you. And it's not a cure, this is for life. So moving on to the next product when it comes to prevention. So for an optimal health, you don't only need omegas, you need other things also, proteins, carbohydrates, you need vitamins, trace elements, and so on. So that's quite normal. And if you eat a balanced diet with everything, then you probably should be okay. And that's where people were, for example, in the 1700s and 1800s and the early 1900s. But in the middle of and the late 1900s and now in the 2020s, it looks differently. We're eating a heavy diet with lots of calories. It's fast food, full of sugar, salt, and saturated fat. And the governments in the world, they all recommend us to cut down on salt, sugar, and saturated fats. Not because they want to be mean and bad, it's because it's not healthy. So what if we cook at home? Then it should be perfect, shouldn't it? Well, there are some challenges. And the challenges are, for example, if you buy fish, if it's farmed, then it doesn't contain so much omega-3, it contains more omega-6. If you're buying oil and it's corn oil or soybean oil, omega-6. If the cow or the pig has been standing inside eating pellets, it's full of omega-6. So you need to have wild fish with lots of omega-3, you need to have olive oil with polyphenols, and you need to buy meat that comes from cows and other animals being outside eating grass. So what about import of food? Well, it's different in every part of the world. But if your country is like in Sweden, that we import tomatoes when they are green and they become red in a warehouse somewhere. We import bananas when they are green. We import other vegetables when they are green and they become ripe, so to say, in a warehouse. All vegetables in the world, they develop nutrients by having a colorful skin, and that's when they show we are full of nutrients that we have developed. But if it's done in a warehouse, there are not so much of the vitamins. So there is a challenge of making food also in your kitchen. And finally about that, how many are eating mushrooms all the time? Are you drinking filtered beer or unfiltered beer? Are you eating bread that is being made with proper yeast or not? Because mushrooms and yeast contains an important ingredient called beta-glucans that is extremely important for your immune system. And I will come back to this. So again, WHO, they talk about diet and lifestyle. They are mentioning the cardiovascular diseases and other diseases because of what you eat and what you do. And again, pointing out it can be prevented. So second part of the prevention concept is to compensate for today's food, either if you're buying microwave food or fast food, or if you're buying ingredients yourself and it's difficult to get good ingredients. Second part is to maximize the immune system. So if we look at the extent, it contains more or less all the vitamins, all the minerals that you need. It contains lots of phytonutrients, algae extract, tea extract, broccoli, tomato, and so on. And I cannot go through all of them. So it compensates for the food. And the second part when it comes to immune system, broccoli, for example, contains a cyanogen that is so powerful, it kills off pathogen. This is the kind of cyanogen that you have in your saliva and you have it in your tears. And if you think about it, how often do you have a tear infection, even though if you have a fever? So that's how powerful the cyanogen is in the broccoli. And if you live in Germany and eating sauerkraut, you also have this cyanogen in the food. We have vitamin D and C, and we have beta-glucans from yeast that also support the immune system. So to summarize that, We have all the important vitamins, all the important minerals, and all the important phytonutrients to compensate for the food. And again, as I mentioned, the beta glucans from yeast, they support the innate, the first immune system. We have vitamin C and vitamin D that supports your general immune system. And we have cyanogens in it that helps killing off bacteria and pathogens inside your body. We also have a product called Protect for those who would like to have extra support for the immune system. It contains beta glucans from yeast, and it contains vitamin D and vitamin C. So it's a nice product to pop up when you're traveling, when you are exposed to COVID-19 in your areas, or otherwise feeling down. Immune cells do not live very long time, so therefore it's important to fill up your system more or less daily. Only vitamin D is stored for some days in your liver. All the other ones are consumed, and you need to top it up every day. So let's move on to the third, which is your large bowel, the colon. And when looking at the ingredients that we can support the colon with, there are first a few things to mention. There is a connection between your large colon and your brain. There is a communication from your brain to your colon, and there is a communication from your colon up to your brain. And that influences how you feel, how you are reacting to things, mood, stress, anxiety, and also how you're feeling in your stomach. In your colon, it's a matter of good and bad bacteria. It's a matter of having a balance, not having only one. Both are needed, but in a balance. The bad thing about it is that some of the bacteria, they are producing something called LPS. And LPS contributes to inflammation, and inflammation in your colon, in your gut. So having too much of the bacteria is not good for you. So our proposal is, of course, the balance oil that contributes to a balance of omega-6 and omega-3 that minimizes the chronic inflammation also in the gut. And then we have a product called Zinzino, which is food for your gut. It is called dietary fibers. Some people call it prebiotic fibers. Basically, it's food for the various bacteria in your large colon. And they are time released because we have different kinds of bacteria at different places. And it's only the good bacteria that really benefit from the dietary fibers. Bad bacteria, they eat anything. Good bacteria, they only want to have special kind of fibers. So we have, for example, fructooligosaccharides that are consumed by the bacteria in the beginning. We have inulin and we have beta-glucan from oat that are consumed in the middle and the second part. And we have resistant starch that is consumed by the bacteria at the end of the colon. So we're trying to take care of all the bacteria. And as they get food, they will grow, and then they will create a balance between the good and the bad bacteria. And then there will be some benefits for you, because the good bacteria, they will provide energy, they will produce vitamin, they will take care of bad things. And actually, 70% of your normal immune system is found in the gut. So again, it's quite important also to support the immune system through your stomach, so to say. In the long run, you will have a good bacteria health, you will have a good inflammation health, you will have a good immune health, and since there is a connection between the colon and your brain, it will also influence your mental status and prevent bad things from happening in your mental situation as time goes by. So you're talking mental health also. So it's a matter of stopping and preventing from different areas, both balance oil, both extend, and both the synabiotic fiber blend. And that was the end of my presentation. I hope I have enlightened you a little bit, and that this gives rise to questions that you may discuss, or you will find it in the different product fact sheets that we have on our website. Thank you very much for listening. I wish you all the best and hope you will have a successful meeting. Bye bye for now.